Imagine dancing for days without stopping. No food, no water, no sleep. Your feet bleeding, bones breaking, heart racing. But you can't stop. You don't want to stop. Now imagine this happening to 400 people at once. In July 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, France, a woman named Frau Troffea walked into the street and began to dance. Within a week, 34 others joined her. Within a month, over 400 people were dancing uncontrollably through the streets. And here's the terrifying part. Dozens of them danced themselves to death. This actually happened. This is the dancing plague of 1518, and what caused it is more disturbing than you could ever imagine. July 1518. Strasbourg was suffocating under a brutal heatwave. The city reeked of disease, poverty, and desperation. Famines had ravaged the region. Syphilis was spreading. People were dying in the streets. Then, on a scorching afternoon, a woman named Frau Troffea stepped out of her home, stood in the middle of a narrow street, and started dancing. Not graceful ballet, not joyful celebration. This was frantic, violent, uncontrollable movement. Her body jerked and twisted. Her arms flailed. Her legs kicked wildly. Her husband begged her to stop. She couldn't, or wouldn't. She danced through the afternoon, through the night, through the next morning. For 6 days straight, without stopping, people gathered to watch, thinking she was possessed, cursed, or simply insane. But then, something impossible happened. Others started dancing too. Within a week, 34 people had joined Frau Troffea. They danced in the streets, in their homes, in churches. They couldn't stop. By the end of the month, over 400 people were dancing. The authorities were terrified. Doctors were baffled. Priests claimed demonic possession. But the dancing continued. And here's where it gets truly horrifying. People started dying. Historical records describe dancers collapsing from heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion. Their feet bled through their shoes. Some broke bones, but kept moving. Witnesses reported seeing dancers with blood-soaked clothing. Delirious eyes rolled back. ... Still dancing. At the peak of the plague, it's estimated that 15 people were dying every single day. The question everyone was asking: why? What could possibly cause this? The answer the authorities came up with: you won't believe this. They decided the cure was more dancing. Yes, you heard that right. The City Council of Strasbourg, in their infinite wisdom, believed that the dancers had hot blood that needed to be expelled through continuous movement. So, they built stages in the streets. They hired musicians to play day and night. They encouraged the dancing, thinking the afflicted would eventually tire themselves out and recover. Spoiler alert, it made everything worse. More people joined, the death toll increased. The stages became scenes of absolute horror, with bodies collapsing, people screaming, and the music never stopping. It took weeks before the authorities finally realized their mistake. They banned public dancing, broke up the stages, and separated the dancers. Slowly, over the following weeks, the plague began to fade. By September 1518, it was over, but the mystery remained. What caused this? For 500 years, historians, scientists, and doctors have debated this question. And the theories, they're absolutely fascinating. Theory number 1. Ergot poisoning. Some experts believe the dancers consumed bread contaminated with ergot, a fungus that grows on rye grain. Ergot contains compounds similar to LSD and can cause hallucinations, convulsions, and manic behavior. But here's the problem. Ergot typically causes muscle constriction, not the sustained rhythmic movement witnessed in 1518. Plus, 400 people over several weeks. That's a lot of bad bread. Theory number 2. Mass psychogenic illness. This is the theory most historians believe today, also called mass hysteria. It's when psychological distress manifests as physical symptoms that spread through a group. Remember the context. Strasbourg in 1518 was a nightmare. Famines, plagues, poverty, religious extremism. People were traumatized, starving, and terrified. In medieval times, there was a widespread belief in dancing curses sent by Saint Vitus as punishment for sin. Some historians believe that under extreme stress, people's fear of this curse actually manifested into reality. Their minds, desperate to escape psychological torment, essentially hijacked their bodies. The dancing became a form of trance, a dissociative state where they were no longer consciously in control. And once it started, the fear, the spectacle, the social pressure, it spread like wildfire through an already traumatized population. Theory number 3. Religious ecstasy or cult behavior. Some researchers suggest that dancing was a form of extreme religious expression or even evidence of a secret cult. Medieval Europe was filled with ecstatic religious movements where believers would enter trance states. But the evidence for this is weak, and it doesn't explain the involuntary nature of the dancing. Here's what makes the dancing plague truly terrifying. It shows us how fragile the human mind really is when pushed to extremes by trauma, stress, and fear. Our brains can literally turn against us. We can lose control of our own bodies. And when that happens in a group, the effect multiplies. This isn't just medieval history. Mass psychogenic illness still happens today. In 2011, dozens of teenage girls in upstate New York developed sudden, uncontrollable tics and seizures. Doctors found no physical cause. It was stress-induced hysteria. In Tanzania in the 1960s, an epidemic of uncontrollable laughing spread through schools, affecting over 1,000 people. The dancing plague of 1518 is an extreme example, but the mechanism is the same. Minds under unbearable pressure finding escape through the body. What happened in Strasbourg was the result of collective trauma in a society at its breaking point. The dancing was both symptom and contagion, both curse and release. The dancing plague was documented extensively by city officials, physicians, and chroniclers of the time. These aren't legends or myths, they're historical facts recorded in city records, medical texts, and multiple eyewitness accounts. The event shocked Europe and influenced medical understanding of psychological disorders for centuries. It became a cautionary tale about mass hysteria, the power of belief, and the devastating effects of social trauma. Artists have depicted it. Writers have analyzed it. Scientists still study it today. Why? Because it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. We are not as in control as we think we are. Our minds can be hijacked by fear and trauma. Suffering, when shared, can become contagious. And sometimes, the cure is worse than the disease. The dancing plague reminds us that we are fragile, social creatures whose minds and bodies are deeply interconnected with those around us. So the next time you're stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, remember Frau Trafia, standing in that street in July 1518, unable to stop her body from moving. Remember that under the right conditions, our minds can turn against us, that trauma can spread like disease, that we are all more connected and more vulnerable than we'd like to admit. The dancing plague of 1518 ended over 500 years ago, but the question it raises remains: what would it take for you to lose control? If you found this story as fascinating and disturbing as I did, hit that subscribe button. We dive into history's darkest and most mysterious events every week. And let me know in the comments, do you think it was ergot poisoning, mass hysteria, or something else entirely? Thanks for watching. Stay curious. And maybe don't dance too much.